On my birthday, my children gave me a framed family photo. No one asked why my signature was missing from the documents under the frame. The bank noticed. The next week, everything changed. But let me start at the beginning. The restaurant was one of those upscale places where the waiters wear black, and the lighting is dim enough to hide the prices on the menu. My daughter Rebecca had picked it. She always picked places like this, restaurants where appearances mattered more than the food, where being seen was half the point of going. I sat at the head of the table in a private room they'd reserved, the kind of room with frosted glass walls and indirect lighting that made everyone look 10 years younger. My son Daniel sat to my right, his wife Jessica beside him. Rebecca sat to my left with her husband Brad. 4 people who looked like they belonged in a furniture catalog, all smiling at me like I'd just won something. 53, Daniel said, raising his glass. The big 5-3. Ancient, Rebecca added with a laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. I smiled back and sipped my water. I'd stopped drinking 2 years ago, but nobody seemed to remember that. They never brought it up anymore, which was fine. It was easier that way. The meal went exactly as I'd expected. Small talk about their jobs, their houses, their plans. Daniel worked in commercial real estate development now. Rebecca was in marketing for a tech startup. They both made more money than I ever had, and they both made sure I knew it in that polite, indirect way that people use when they want to brag without seeming like they're bragging. The McKinley project is finally breaking ground next month, Daniel said. 18 million in financing. That's wonderful, I said. Jessica touched his arm. He's been working so hard on it. I can imagine. Brad leaned forward. Rebecca's campaign just went viral. 3 million impressions in 48 hours. Impressive. The food came. Steak for Daniel, salmon for Rebecca, something with truffle oil for their spouses. I'd ordered chicken. Simple. Easy. The kind of thing that didn't require much attention. We were halfway through the main course when Rebecca glanced at Daniel. Some silent communication passed between them, the kind that siblings develop when they've been planning something. Daniel nodded almost imperceptibly. So, Dad, Rebecca said, setting down her fork. We got you something special this year. She reached under the table and pulled out a wrapped package. Square, flat, about 2 feet on each side. The wrapping paper was expensive, thick, textured, the kind that costs more than it should. You didn't have to do that, I said. We wanted to, Daniel said. I took the package and set it on my lap. The weight felt wrong somehow. Too heavy for just a frame, but not heavy enough to be anything else. I peeled back the paper carefully, aware that all 4 of them were watching me. It was a frame. Dark wood, elegant, professionally done. Behind the glass was a family photo I recognized. We'd taken it 2 Christmases ago, all of us standing in front of Rebecca's fireplace. Back when these dinners still felt real. It's beautiful, I said. Look at the back, Jessica said. She was smiling too wide. I turned the frame over. The backing was sealed tight with professional mounting tape. Through the thin gap between the frame and the backing, I could see the edges of papers. Documents. White paper with printed text and lines for signatures. My signature wasn't on them. I looked up. All 4 of them were still smiling. We thought you'd like having us all together like that, Rebecca said. A reminder. Of family, Brad added. I turned the frame back over and looked at the photo. We all looked happy in it. False happy, the kind you put on for cameras, but happy enough. I traced my finger along the edge of the glass. Thank you, I said. It's very thoughtful. Daniel raised his glass again. To Dad, 53 years. They all drank. I didn't. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of dessert and coffee and small talk that felt even smaller than before. When we finally left, Rebecca hugged me at the door. She smelled like expensive perfume. Love you, Dad, she said. Love you too. Daniel shook my hand. His grip was firm, confident. Happy birthday. Thanks for dinner. Any time. I carried the frame to my car and set it on the passenger seat. The glass caught the street light as I pulled out of the parking lot, reflecting their faces back at me. 4 people who looked like they cared. I drove home in silence. My apartment was 15 minutes away, a 1-bedroom place in a complex that was nice enough, but nothing special. I'd moved here after the divorce 3 years ago, after everything fell apart the first time. Inside, I set the frame on the kitchen counter and stared at it for a long time. The documents were visible if you looked closely enough. White paper pressed against the backing. I could make out partial words through the thin gap. Transfer of. Power of. Signature required. I didn't try to open it. Not yet. Instead, I made coffee and sat at the counter, looking at our faces in the photo. We looked like a real family. The kind of family that has Sunday dinners and remembers birthdays and calls just to check in. We weren't that family. We hadn't been for a long time, but I'd been pretending we were, because it was easier than admitting the truth. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Thanks for coming tonight. Hope you liked the gift. I typed back. Perfect, thanks again. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. She didn't respond. I finished my coffee and went to bed. The frame stayed on the counter, faces frozen in false happiness, documents hidden underneath where nobody was supposed to look. I slept poorly. I kept thinking about the weight of the frame, the way it had felt too heavy, the way they'd all watched me open it, the way Rebecca had told me to look at the back. At 3 a.m, I got up and went back to the kitchen. I turned on the light and picked up the frame. In the harsh fluorescent glow, I could see more details. The mounting tape was professional grade, the kind you can't remove without damaging what's underneath. The documents were crisp, recently printed. I set it back down and made more coffee. By the time the sun came up, I'd decided not to think about it. Whatever it was probably nothing. Some insurance paperwork they'd filed on my behalf. Some beneficiary form they'd updated. Something reasonable. I took a shower, got dressed, and went to work. I worked in facilities management for a commercial property company. Not glamorous, but steady. I handled maintenance contracts, vendor relationships, building operations, the kind of work that kept buildings running, but that nobody really noticed unless something broke. I was good at it. 28 years with the same company, working my way up from maintenance supervisor to operations manager. I knew every system, every vendor, every shortcut. I knew which contractors would show up on time and which ones would ghost you. I knew how to read blueprints and building codes and contract language. I knew how things worked. The morning passed normally. Emails, phone calls, a site visit to check on a roof repair. I grabbed lunch at the deli across from the office and ate at my desk while reviewing invoices. At 2:15, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Porter? This is Amanda Chen from First National Bank. I sat up straighter. Yes? I'm calling from our compliance department. We need to schedule a meeting with you regarding some recent account activity. What kind of activity? I'd prefer to discuss it in person. Are you available tomorrow morning at 10? Can you give me any details? Not over the phone, I'm afraid. It's regarding some documents we received. There are some irregularities we need to address. My stomach dropped. Irregularities? Yes, sir. Nothing to be concerned about, but we do need to meet. Tomorrow at 10? I'll be there. Thank you, Mr. Porter. Ask for me at the main desk. She hung up before I could ask anything else. I set the phone down and stared at the wall. Documents, irregularities, compliance department. I thought about the frame, the papers underneath, the way they'd all smiled when I opened it. No one asked why my signature was missing. I left work early and drove straight to the bank. It was a large branch in the downtown financial district, all glass and marble and the kind of quiet that only comes from serious money. I walked in and went straight to the nearest desk. I need to check my account status, all of them. The woman behind the desk smiled politely. Do you have an appointment? No, but I need to see them now. Something in my voice must have registered because her smile faltered. Let me see what I can do. Your name? David Porter. She typed on her computer. Her expression changed. One moment, please. She picked up her phone and spoke quietly. I couldn't hear what she said, but I saw her glance at me twice. A man in a suit appeared from somewhere in the back. He was young, probably 30, with the kind of face that hadn't learned to hide concern yet. Mr. Porter, I'm James Reston, Assistant Branch Manager. Would you mind coming with me? I followed him through a door marked private and into a small conference room. Glass walls, a table, 4 chairs. He closed the door. Your appointment tomorrow is still scheduled, he said, but I can give you some preliminary information. What's going on? He pulled out a tablet and tapped the screen a few times. We received documents 3 days ago requesting a transfer of power of attorney over your accounts. Joint control with your 2 children, Rebecca Porter Sutton and Daniel Porter. I didn't sign anything. That's the issue. The signature on the documents doesn't match our records. Not perfectly. Close, but not perfect. How close? Close enough that it would have gone through if one of our newer staff had processed it. But our senior compliance officer caught it. She flagged it for review. I sat down. What would have happened if she hadn't caught it? The transfer would have completed. Your children would have had full access to your accounts. Checking, savings, investment portfolio, everything. How much are we talking about? He tapped the screen again. $238,412 combined. I'd spent 28 years saving that money. Every bonus, every raise, every bit of overtime. It was supposed to be my retirement, my safety net. What happens now? We've frozen the request pending investigation. Your accounts are secure, but we need you to come in tomorrow to sign affidavits and potentially file a fraud report. Fraud. If the signature was forged, yes, that's fraud. I stood up. The room felt too small. Can you make copies of the documents they submitted? I can have them ready for you tomorrow. No, now. I need them now. He hesitated, then nodded. Give me 10 minutes. He left. I stood there looking out through the glass walls at the bank floor, people going about their business, depositing checks, applying for loans, living their normal lives. My children had tried to steal my money. Not tried. Had actively worked to steal it. Had signed documents with my name. Had submitted them to the bank. Had smiled at me over dinner while those documents were sitting in some processing queue. Had given me a framed photo with those same documents hidden underneath. A reminder, Rebecca had said, of family. Reston came back with a folder. Copies of everything we received. The original documents are being held as evidence. I took the folder. Thank you. Mr. Porter, I need to ask. Did you give anyone permission to submit these on your behalf? No. Did anyone have access to your signature? Old checks, documents, anything they could have copied? They're my children. They've had access to everything. He nodded slowly. I understand this is difficult, but you need to consider filing a police report. Tomorrow, I said. I'll think about it. I left the bank and sat in my car in the parking garage. I opened the folder and looked at the documents. Transfer of power of attorney, joint account control, beneficiary updates, all dated 4 days ago, all signed David Porter in handwriting that looked almost exactly like mine. Almost. The signature was too smooth, too perfect. Mine always had a slight waver at the end of the R in Porter, a habit from an old wrist injury. This one didn't. They'd practiced. They'd looked at my signature on old documents and practiced until they could copy it well enough to fool most people, but not well enough. I drove home. The frame was still sitting on the kitchen counter where I'd left it. I picked it up and looked at it again. The photo showed all of us smiling. The documents underneath pressed against the backing, a reminder of family. I set it back down without opening it. Not yet. Instead, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my messages. Texts from Rebecca and Daniel over the past few months. Casual conversations, birthday reminders, holiday plans. 3 months ago, Daniel had asked if I had a will. Just checking, he'd said, making sure everything's in order. 2 months ago, Rebecca had asked about my retirement accounts. Planning for the future, she'd said, making sure you're set up right. Last month, they'd both asked when I was planning to retire. You've worked so hard, they'd said. You deserve to rest. I'd thought they were being thoughtful. They were counting my money. I made dinner. Pasta, sauce from a jar, nothing special. I ate standing at the counter, looking at the frame, at our faces, at the lie behind the glass. My phone rang. Daniel. Hey, Dad, just checking in. How was your day? Fine. Good. Hey, I was thinking. We should get together soon. Maybe lunch this week? Maybe. Everything okay? You sound tired. Long day. Well, get some rest. Talk soon? Sure. He hung up. I set the phone down and finished my pasta. Then I got a screwdriver from the utility drawer and carefully pried open the back of the frame. The mounting tape resisted, but I worked slowly, methodically, until the backing came free. The photo fell out first, then the documents. 6 pages total. Power of attorney transfer, account control authorization, beneficiary change forms, all signed with my name, all notarized by someone I'd never heard of. At the bottom of the last page, in small print, was a note. Documents prepared by Sutton & Lee Legal Services. Brad's firm. I laid everything out on the counter. The photo, the documents, the frame. A gift, they'd called it. A reminder. They'd hidden the evidence of their crime behind a family photo and given it to me on my birthday. They'd smiled while I opened it. They'd watched me hold it, turn it over, look at the back. They'd told me to look at the back because they thought I wouldn't understand. They thought I was too old, too tired, too stupid to figure it out. They thought I'd hang the frame on the wall and never look again. They thought I'd make it easy. I gathered up the documents and put them back in the bank's folder. Then I put the folder in my briefcase. The photo I left on the counter, face up, all of us smiling. I made coffee and sat down at my laptop. It was time to stop pretending. It was time to remember who I'd been before I became the man they thought they could rob. I pulled up my email and started searching. Old contacts, former colleagues, people I'd worked with back when I did more than just manage contracts and review invoices. I'd spent 28 years in facilities management. I'd started as a maintenance supervisor, working nights and weekends, getting my hands dirty. I'd learned building systems from the inside out. I'd worked with electricians, plumbers, HVAC techs, security installers. I'd learned how things worked and, more importantly, how to make them not work when you needed leverage. I'd negotiated with contractors who thought they could overcharge. I'd dealt with union reps who thought they could threaten. I'd handled building owners who thought they could break contracts. I'd been good at it, better than good. Then I'd moved up, gotten the promotion to operations manager, started wearing ties instead of work boots, started managing people instead of problems. I'd gotten soft, but I still remembered how things worked. I still had the contacts. I still knew the systems. I found what I was looking for in an old email folder. A name, Frank Morrison. We'd worked together 15 years ago on a construction project that went south. He'd been the site supervisor. I'd been the facilities coordinator. We'd spent 6 months dealing with contractors who cut corners and inspectors who looked the other way. We'd learned a lot about leverage. I called his number. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. I left a message. Frank, it's David Porter, from the Riverside Project. I need to talk to you about something. Call me back. I hung up and made more coffee. It was going to be a long night. At 11:30, my phone rang. Frank. David Porter. Hell, I haven't heard that name in years. You still in the business? Still managing buildings. Listen, I need some information. What kind? The kind you don't put in writing. There was a pause. This about a job or something else? Something else. You in trouble? The opposite. I'm fixing a problem. Another pause. Where are you? Home. West Side. I know a place, diner on 7th Street near the old industrial park. You know it? I can find it. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Come alone. I will. He hung up. I sat back and looked at the photo on the counter. Rebecca and Daniel smiled back at me. Behind them, their spouses smiled too. Everyone looked so happy. I wondered if they'd already spent my money in their heads, if they'd made plans for it, if they'd argued about how to split it. I wondered if they'd thought about me at all. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Hope you're enjoying your gift. Let me know if you need help hanging it. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, it's perfect. Already found the right spot for it. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Great. Love you, Dad. I set the phone down and looked at the documents spread across my counter. At the signatures that weren't mine. At the proof of what they'd tried to do. Love you too, I said to the empty room, but I didn't mean it. Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We'd love to get to know our audience better. The bank meeting the next morning was exactly as uncomfortable as I'd expected. Amanda Chen was in her 40s, professionally pleasant, with the kind of careful neutrality that comes from years of delivering bad news. She sat across from me in the same conference room where Reston had shown me the documents the day before. Mr. Porter, thank you for coming in. I know this situation is difficult. You said there were irregularities. She opened a folder. We received the power of attorney documents on Monday morning. They were submitted electronically through our online portal by your daughter, Rebecca Porter Sutton. She included a cover note stating that you'd requested the changes but were having trouble with the online system. I didn't request anything. We understand that now. Our initial review flagged the signature as potentially problematic. When we compared it to the signatures on file, we found several discrepancies. The overall shape is correct, but the pressure patterns and stroke order don't match. She pulled out 2 documents and placed them side by side. One was a signature card from when I'd opened my checking account 15 years ago. The other was from the power of attorney transfer. See here? She pointed to the R in Porter. Your authentic signature has a distinct hesitation and slight tremor at the end of this letter. It's consistent across all your verified signatures. The submitted document doesn't have that characteristic. Someone traced it. Possibly, or used digital software to replicate it. Either way, it's not authentic. I looked at both signatures. She was right. The fake one was smoother, more confident. Whoever had done it had been careful, but not careful enough. What happens now? We've frozen the transfer request. Your accounts remain under your sole control. However, we need you to sign several affidavits confirming that you didn't authorize these changes. We also strongly recommend filing a police report. And if I don't? She paused. That's your choice. But if someone has been forging your signature, they may try again. With other institutions, other documents, a police report creates a paper trail that protects you. And implicates my children. Yes. I sat back. The chair was leather, expensive, comfortable. The kind of chair that was meant to make difficult conversations feel easier. It didn't work. Can I see who submitted the documents? The exact details? She hesitated, then pulled out another paper. The submission came from an IP address registered to Sutton & Lee Legal Services. The account used for the electronic notarization belongs to Bradley Sutton. He's listed as a certified notary in our system. Brad, my son-in-law, the lawyer. He'd notarized documents with a forged signature. He'd used his law firm's systems to do it. He'd smiled at me over dinner while those documents were in the processing queue. I need copies of everything, I said. I have them prepared. She slid a thick envelope across the table. Complete copies of all submitted documents, our internal review notes, and the electronic submission records. Everything you need. I took the envelope. Thank you. Mr. Porter, I need to be clear. This is fraud. Attempted financial fraud. These documents were submitted with intent to gain control of your assets. The fact that your children were involved doesn't change the legal reality. I understand. Do you? Because I've seen situations like this before. Family members convince themselves it's complicated, that there must be a misunderstanding. But there's no misunderstanding here. Someone forged your signature to steal your money. I met her eyes. I understand perfectly. She nodded slowly. Good. Because they will try again. People who do this once always try again. Not if I deal with it first. That's what the police are for. Maybe. I signed the affidavits. She witnessed them, made copies, filed them. Professional, efficient, compassionate in that distant way that banking professionals perfect. When it was done, she walked me to the door. Think about the police report, she said. Think about protecting yourself. I will. But I was already thinking about something else. I went to work. Same office, same desk, same routine. But everything felt different. I looked at the files on my computer with new eyes. Building systems, contractor relationships, access codes, vendor contacts, 28 years of information, 28 years of knowing how things worked. I pulled up Daniel's business information. His company, Porter Development LLC, had been my client for the past 3 years. We managed 2 of their commercial properties. I knew their buildings. I knew their contracts. I knew their systems. I'd helped them negotiate those contracts. I'd given Daniel advice on vendor selection, maintenance scheduling, building operations. I'd saved his company thousands of dollars. I'd helped him build his business while he planned to rob me. At lunch, I drove to the diner Frank had mentioned. It was in an old industrial area that was slowly gentrifying, the kind of place where old warehouses sat next to new loft apartments. The diner was a throwback, all chrome and vinyl, unchanged since the 70s. Frank was waiting in a back booth. He looked older than I remembered. Gray hair, weathered face, but the same sharp eyes. He was drinking coffee and reading a newspaper like someone from another era. David. He stood and shook my hand. His grip was still strong. Frank, thanks for meeting. You look good. Little older, but who isn't? He sat back down. So, what's this about? I told him. Not everything, but enough. My children had tried to steal my money. They'd forged documents. They'd used professional legal services to do it. They'd given me the evidence on my birthday. He listened without interrupting, his coffee getting cold. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Your kids, he finally said. Yeah. Hell. He shook his head. What do you need? Information. I need to know what they're into. Business dealings, financial situations, vulnerabilities. You planning something? I'm planning to protect myself. He studied me. David, I knew you back when you were tougher, before you got soft with the management job. You were good at handling problems. Real problems, not just paperwork. I remember. This kind of problem, it's not just about information. It's about leverage. You understand that? I do. He pulled out his phone. I still know people. Contractors, inspectors, union guys. People who know things. What exactly do you need? Daniel's in commercial real estate development. I need to know about his projects. Financing, partners, timelines. Anything that could be pressure points. And the daughter? Marketing. Tech startup. I need to know about the company, her position, her relationships. Frank made a note on his phone. This is going to take some time, and it's not going to be cheap. I'm not worried about cheap. No, I guess you're not. Not anymore. He looked up. You really want to do this? Go after your own kids? They went after me first. Fair enough. He finished his coffee. Give me a week. I'll see what I can find. I need it faster. Then give me 3 days, but it's going to cost more. Whatever it takes. He nodded and stood. David, one more thing. When you start down this road, you can't stop halfway. You understand that? You go after them, you go all the way. No changing your mind. I won't. Good. Because halfway is how people get hurt. We shook hands again, and he left. I sat in the booth for a while longer, drinking coffee that tasted like metal, thinking about what Frank had said. No changing your mind. I didn't plan to. That evening, I went home and called Rebecca. She answered on the second ring, cheerful, warm. Hey, Dad. How are you? Good. I wanted to thank you again for the birthday dinner. Of course. We loved having you. Did you hang up the photo yet? Not yet. I'm still deciding on the right spot. Well, when you do, send me a picture. I want to see where you put it. I will. Hey, I was thinking, maybe we could have lunch this week. Just you and me? There was a pause. Just a fraction of a second, but I heard it. That would be great. When were you thinking? Thursday? That place you like, the one with the garden patio? Perfect. Noon? Noon works. Looking forward to it, Dad. Love you. Love you too. I hung up and stared at the phone. She'd paused. Just for a moment, but she'd paused. Trying to figure out why I wanted to meet. Trying to decide if it was safe. They knew something was wrong. They didn't know what, but they knew. I opened my laptop and started going through emails again. This time I was looking for patterns. When had they started asking about my finances? When had the questions started feeling wrong? I found the first one from 8 months ago. Daniel asking if I'd thought about updating my will. Casual, offhand, wrapped in concern about making sure things were in order. Then Rebecca 6 months ago, asking about my retirement accounts. Had I checked the beneficiaries lately? Just making sure they were updated? Then more questions, subtler. Asking about my work, my plans, my health, building a picture of when I might retire, how much I had saved, what my timeline looked like. They'd been planning this for months. I kept searching. Found an email from 5 months ago where Daniel had CC'd me on a message to his accountant. It was about estate planning, tax strategies, inherited assets. He'd framed it as information he thought might help me. But reading it now, I saw what it really was. Research. He was researching how to handle inherited assets, how to minimize taxes on transferred wealth, how to structure things so they'd get the most money, or close enough to it. I found more. Rebecca asking about my apartment lease, Daniel asking about my health insurance, both of them, separately, asking if I'd thought about moving into a senior community. I was 53. They'd been trying to make me feel old, trying to make me think it was time to step back, hand things over, trust them to handle it, and I'd almost believed them. My phone rang. Daniel. Hey, Dad, got a minute? Sure. I was talking to Rebecca. She said you two are having lunch Thursday. That's right. Great, great. Hey, I was thinking maybe I could join you, make it a family thing. I was hoping to just catch up with her, one-on-one. Another pause. Shorter than Rebecca's, but there. Sure, of course, no problem. Maybe we can grab lunch next week? Just us? Sounds good. Okay. Well, I'll let you go. Just wanted to check in. Thanks for calling. He hung up. I sat there holding the phone, thinking about how quickly he'd called after Rebecca. They were talking, coordinating, trying to figure out what I knew. Good. Let them worry. I spent the rest of the evening organizing everything. Bank documents in one folder, emails in another, timeline of their questions and my responses in a third. I created a spreadsheet tracking every interaction, every request, every moment when they'd tried to position themselves between me and my money. It was comprehensive, detailed, The kind of documentation that would hold up in court, but I wasn't planning to go to court. At 11, my phone buzzed. Text from Brad, Rebecca's husband. "Hey David, Rebecca mentioned you and she are getting together Thursday. Just wanted to say it was great seeing you on your birthday. Hope you're enjoying the frame." I stared at the message. Brad, who'd notarized the forged documents. Brad, whose law firm had submitted them. Brad, who was now texting me like everything was normal. I typed back, "Thanks. The frame is perfect. Really thoughtful." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. "Glad you like it. If you ever need help with any legal stuff, you know I'm here." Legal stuff. He was offering to help me with legal issues while actively committing fraud against me. The audacity was almost impressive. "I'll keep that in mind," I replied. I set the phone down and looked at the photo still sitting on my counter. Our faces smiled back at me, Rebecca and Daniel in front, their spouses behind them, me off to the side. Everyone positioned just right. I picked up the photo and studied it more carefully. We'd taken it 2 Christmases ago at Rebecca's house. I remembered that day. They'd insisted on the photo. Multiple shots, different arrangements, until they got the one they wanted. This one. With me off to the side, slightly out of focus. Almost an afterthought. They'd been planning this since then, since before then. That photo wasn't a family memory. It was a placeholder, a way to keep me in frame while they erased me from everything else. I put the photo face down and went to bed. But I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about Frank's words. No changing your mind. Go all the way. I'd spent my whole life being reasonable, being understanding, being the person who compromised, who saw both sides, who tried to make peace. I was done being that person. By the time morning came, I'd made my decision. I wasn't going to file a police report. I wasn't going to take them to court. I wasn't going to confront them with lawyers and judges and legal proceedings that would take years and cost a fortune and end with nothing but fractured relationships and public humiliation. I was going to handle it myself, the way I used to handle problems when I was younger, before I'd gotten soft with management jobs and comfortable routines, when I'd dealt with contractors who thought they could cheat, and unions that thought they could threaten, and building owners who thought they could break contracts. I'd learned then that the system wasn't always the answer, that sometimes you had to create your own leverage, your own consequences. I'd forgotten that lesson. I wasn't going to forget it again. Tuesday morning, I got a call from Daniel's attorney, a woman named Patricia Chen, professional and direct. "Mr. Porter, I represent your son Daniel. I'd like to discuss the possibility of a resolution to this matter." "What kind of resolution?" "One that doesn't involve criminal charges. My client is willing to make restitution for any perceived damages." Perceived. Poor word choice. I apologize. He's willing to make restitution for the attempted unauthorized access to your accounts. In exchange for what? You drop the criminal complaint. No. Mr. Porter? No. Your client forged my signature. He tried to steal my life savings, and you want me to just forget about it? I want to find a way forward that doesn't destroy his life. He should have thought about that before he tried to destroy mine. Sir, please. Daniel has a wife, a business, a future. If he's charged with felony fraud, he loses everything. Good. She was quiet for a moment. I see. Well, thank you for your time. She hung up. 5 minutes later, Rebecca's attorney called. Similar conversation, similar result. Then Brad's attorney. Same story. They were all lawyering up, all trying to negotiate, all trying to find a way out that didn't involve prison. But I wasn't interested in negotiating. At work, I got called into a meeting with my supervisor and the HR director. "David, we need to talk about something," my supervisor said. "What?" The HR director slid a folder across the table. "We received a complaint about some irregularities in the building management system." My stomach dropped. "What kind of irregularities?" "Unauthorized changes to climate control settings, security protocols, maintenance schedules, All at properties managed by Porter Development. I don't know anything about that. The changes were made using your credentials. That's not possible. The system logs show otherwise. She opened the folder. Saturday morning, 3 a.m., multiple system modifications, all from your login. I'd been careful. I'd used a remote connection, but I'd forgotten about the audit logs. Someone must have stolen my credentials, I said. Have you reported that? No. Why not? Because I didn't know they were stolen until just now. My supervisor leaned forward. David, these changes cause significant problems for Daniel Porter, who happens to be your son, who you're currently filing fraud charges against. That's a coincidence. Is it? Yes. The HR director closed the folder. We're placing you on administrative leave while we investigate. Effective immediately. You'll need to surrender your access credentials and your company laptop. You're suspending me. We're investigating. There's a difference. How long? As long as it takes. I stood up and emptied my pockets. Keys, access cards, ID badge, everything that gave me access to the buildings I'd managed for 28 years. My laptop's at my desk, I said. I'll walk you there. The HR director followed me to my desk. I packed up my personal items while she watched. Photos, a coffee mug, some papers. 28 years reduced to a small box. You can go now, she said. Just like that. Just like that. I carried the box to my car. The security guard watched me leave. People stared as I walked through the parking lot. I'd been fired. Not officially, but effectively. Once they reviewed the logs, once they saw what I'd done, there'd be no coming back. I'd destroyed my children's careers. Now, I'd destroyed my own. At home, I sat on the couch and stared at the wall. My phone kept ringing. Daniel, Rebecca, their attorneys, Detective Morrison, Frank. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I opened my laptop and checked my bank accounts. The ones Daniel and Rebecca had tried to steal. $238,412, 28 years of saving, every bonus, every raise, every penny I could put away. And what had it gotten me? An empty apartment, a suspended job. I closed the laptop. Then I got up and went to the storage unit again. This time I wasn't looking for tools. I was looking for the files I'd kept from my marriage. Documents from the divorce, letters from my ex-wife, photos from when Daniel and Rebecca were young. I found them in a box in the back, thick manila envelopes stuffed with paper. I carried them to my car and drove back home. Inside, I spread everything out on the kitchen table. Divorce papers, custody agreements, child support records, letters. I picked up one of the letters. It was from my ex-wife, written 20 years ago during the divorce proceedings. You were never there for us, always working, always at the job, always putting everything else first. The kids barely know you. I barely know you. You're married to your career, not to us. She'd been right. I had put work first. I'd missed birthdays, recitals, games. I'd worked overtime and weekends while my family grew up without me. And now my children had learned from my example. They'd learned that money mattered more than people, that work mattered more than relationships, that everything could be reduced to a transaction. I'd taught them that. I picked up another letter, this one from Daniel, written when he was 16. Dad, I know you're busy. I know work is important. But I just wanted to tell you I made the honor roll. I thought you'd want to know. I didn't remember getting that letter. I didn't remember responding to it. I picked up a photo. Rebecca's high school graduation. She was smiling, holding her diploma. I was standing behind her, looking at my watch. I'd been in a hurry. Had to get back to work. An emergency at one of the buildings. I'd missed her graduation dinner. I sat there surrounded by evidence of my failures. Not as a victim, but as a father. They'd tried to steal from me, but I'd stolen from them first. I'd stolen time, attention, presence. I'd stolen the father they deserved, and now we were all paying the price. My phone rang. Detective Morrison. I answered. Yes? Mr. Porter, we have a problem. Your son's attorney is claiming you've been harassing his client, sabotaging his business. They're threatening a restraining order. I haven't harassed anyone. Have you had contact with Daniel since filing the complaint? He came to my apartment. I didn't invite him. What about his business? Have you had any involvement with his properties? I didn't answer. Mr. Porter? I may have made some phone calls. What kind of phone calls? To building inspectors, contractors, people I know professionally. For what purpose? To make sure his buildings were up to code. She was quiet for a moment. That sounds like harassment. It's due diligence. It's retaliation, and it's going to complicate this case. If you're actively working to harm the defendants, it undermines your credibility as a victim. I'm protecting myself. No, you're taking revenge. There's a difference. And if you keep this up, I'm going to have to consider whether you're a victim or a participant. Are you saying you won't prosecute them? I'm saying you need to stop what you're doing. Now. No more phone calls. No more sabotage. No more contact with the defendants. Let the system handle this. The system takes years. Then it takes years. But if you continue down this path, you're going to end up charged yourself. For what? Harassment, stalking, intentional interference with business, computer crimes if you've accessed systems without authorization. Should I continue? I hung up. So that was it. I'd gone too far. Even the detective could see it. I sat there holding the phone, surrounded by letters and photos and evidence of all my failures. And I realized something. I didn't want to win this way. I didn't want to destroy my children and lose myself in the process. But I didn't know how to stop. Frank called. I answered. David, we need to talk. In person. I'm busy. No, you're not. You're sitting in your apartment feeling sorry for yourself. I'm coming over. He hung up before I could argue. 30 minutes later, he was at my door. I let him in. He looked around at the papers spread across the table, the empty coffee mugs, the general mess. Jesus, David, what are you doing? What I have to. No, what you're doing is destroying yourself. He picked up one of the letters, read it, put it down. Is this what this is about? You feeling guilty? I was a terrible father. Maybe, probably, but that doesn't mean they get to rob you. They learned it from me. They learned that money matters more than people. So you're taking responsibility for their choices? I'm taking responsibility for mine. He sat down. David, listen to me. What your kids did was wrong. Full stop. No excuses. They're adults. They made adult decisions. You didn't make them do it. I made them who they are. No. You influenced them, but they made themselves. And they made the choice to forge your signature and steal your money. That's on them. And the choice to destroy them? That's on me. Yeah, it is. So the question is, what are you going to do about it? I looked at the papers on the table, the divorce documents, the letters, the photos. I don't know. I think you do. I think you know exactly what you need to do. You just don't want to do it. What's that? Stop. Just stop. Walk away. Let the police handle the criminal case. Let them face the consequences of what they did. But stop actively trying to destroy them. They'll get away with it. Maybe. Maybe not. But at least you'll still be you when it's over. I'm not sure I like who I am. Then change. But don't do it by becoming worse than them. He stood up and walked to the door. I'm done helping you destroy your kids. If you want information, find someone else. If you want advice on how to rebuild your life, call me. He left. I sat there in the silence, thinking about what he'd said. He was right. I knew he was right. But knowing and doing were different things.